If you're watching this video, you know the power of a second brain is tremendous. If you've watched videos by Tiago Forte and Ali Abdul, you'll see that behind these great minds, there are great systems and software in place that help them stay focused throughout the day and help them access information that they can't access with their own mind. That's where a second brain comes in. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to build a 100% free version of my second brain. This is going to be a basic version of the second brain, but if you want to check out my more advanced version, which features habits, snoozed tasks, and more hierarchy to organize your tasks and resources, then you can check out the link in the description in the top pinned comment below. But if you want to learn the building blocks and the basics of building a second brain in Notion for yourself, then stick around and enjoy this video. Okay, so here we are. This is our game plan. I like to kind of create a checklist whenever I'm working on a new Notion workspace because this keeps me organized. And I know that I need to build a tasks database, projects database, notes database. And after that, I need to create some processing views, add some quick capture buttons, and then turn it all into a nice, beautiful dashboard, which we're going to call Productive Brain Lite. Also going to be able to utilize some nice views to see data in different ways with our tasks, projects, and notes. And another nice thing is the aesthetics are going to be on point with this. I'm going to try to make it simple and minimalistic so that it fits everyone and you can tweak your aesthetics as you see fit. But the UI should be nice and fluid. It should be something that's nice to look at. And then finally, I'm going to reveal 4 mystery tools at the end that make this whole second brain work a lot better. First, let's go ahead and build the tasks database. I'm just going to enter into some blank space and type page, and we're going to call this tasks. And then I'm just going to add an icon, and let's just go with lightning bolt. I'm going to go with this battery pack for this one, and we're going to go table, new database. Now let's go ahead and name this task. I'm going to delete this property, and we're going to create a new one for date, and we're just going to call this action date. We're also going to add a date for a due date because due date is important too. So the difference between an action date and a due date is that a due date is when something is due. So let's say something is due on July 1st, and an action date is when I'm going to take action. So I'm going to take action tomorrow and I'm going to complete it before July 1st. So this is kind of my range of my timeline here, and my task name can go here. I'm also going to go ahead and add a status, and this is going to allow me to basically just mark what the status of my task is. So not started, in progress, or done are the default ones, and these work great. So let's just go ahead and downsize this. And now let's go ahead and add a priority using the select column. Let's call it priority. And we're just going to go priority 1, priority 2, and 3. Maybe that would look better the other way around. Yeah, I like that better. Priority 1 looks more urgent, being that it's like that red color. All right, this looks good. This is all we need for a tasks table. I'm just going to go ahead and rename this to tasks. And we'll go ahead and change these icons to a little check mark. All right, I can delete my tasks out of here now. And we have an empty task table with the following properties. I'm going to go back to the second brain build along, and we have tasks down here now. Let's check this off. And now let's build projects. I'm going to hit / page, enter. And we're going to call this projects to add icon. And for this, we're going to go with this spreadsheet here, and I'm going to select table, new database. We're going to call this project, and I'm just going to go ahead and delete these tags. We'll rename this to projects, and we'll match with the top. And now I'm just going to add a relation property, and we're going to relate this project to our tasks. So let's type in tasks to find it. We're going to make sure that this is on no limit, and we're going to hit show on tasks. And it should just say tasks here and projects here. Add relation. And now we're going to add our check, and we're going to run over to tasks by creating a new one quickly. And where it says projects here, I'm just going to hit rename, and I'm going to change this to our spreadsheet. So now we see our tasks on projects, and this task that's popping up, you see the project that's related with it. As you can see, it updates dynamically as I change the name. Next, we're going to go ahead and add a progress tracker. So to do this, we're going to do roll up, and I'm going to call this progress. We're going to go ahead and select the relation tasks, and where it says property, we're going to change the property to status. What we're doing here is we want to get a progress report on how the project's going. How many tasks in here are done? Well, right now new is labeled as done. So I'm going to hit calculate and percent per group complete. This is going to tell me how many tasks in this project are complete. So let's go ahead and open up this task of new right here. And as you can see, it's marked as done, but watch what happens to progress when I hit not started here. As you can see, it drops to 0. So progress is working well. Let's go ahead and come up with an icon for it. You can also edit this property and you can change how it looks if you want to. I kind of like this bar here because as you complete things, it will just slowly but surely fill up. If you have lots of tasks, that is. If you just have one, it's pretty quick. All right, now we have projects built and it's time to build a notes database. Let's just change the name of this table to notes, change it to the icon we selected, which is that bookmark. And we're going to change this column to note. I'm going to go ahead and keep tags in this case. And I'm also going to add a relation property to project. So let's find projects. Here we go. And show on projects as notes. Very good. No limit, add relation. And we're going to select the spreadsheet for the projects just to keep continuity across our system. And now we can create quick, easy notes. So give it a title and fill out the page. And you can go ahead and relate it to a specific project. You can even give it tags. So let's say this is like a meeting note or it's a video script. It could be any number of these things, or it could be multiple of these things. So whatever you want to tag it with, go ahead and add your own tags here. I'm going to go ahead and delete these out of here. And in the future, if you want to, you can filter by those tags and just get specifically what you're looking for in that moment. Let's say you have just a ton of files related to a project and you want to sort them by a certain tag. That's what this is for. Notes is done. Now time to build processing. Okay, processing isn't a database. So far we've built a bunch of databases and now we're going to build a view that uses these databases in a unique way. So let's go ahead and actually flip things around a bit here. We're actually going to build the dashboard and add some buttons first, and then we'll do processing. So we'll just go ahead and build our dashboard down here. I'm just going to hit / and type in call out, and this is going to be our databases section. So we'll just select databases. So we'll just call it databases like that, and I'll drag these pages within there. And we're going to create a view for today's to-do list next. So I'm just going to hit / create linked view of database, and we're going to hit tasks. And I'm just going to hide that, and we're going to rename this to today's tasks. At this point, you're going to want to go to full screen. Or full width, it says here. And what you're going to want to do is drag today's tasks to the side of databases here. If it won't drag to the side of the call out and you're still having trouble, then you can just type in column and select 2 columns and then drag databases there and today's tasks on this side. Then we're just going to swipe that over, and let's go ahead and throw this in a call out too. / call out, and we'll drag it in. Today's to-do list is what we will name it. And I'll actually rename this just to tasks, just to simplify. And we'll go ahead and go with our task icon. Now we are seeing a task that doesn't have an action date of today. Now it has an action date of today, but it didn't before. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that we're only seeing tasks for today that aren't done. We don't want to see anything that's done here, and we don't want to see anything that is not for today. So let's go ahead and add those proper filters. We're going to filter by action date first of all, and we're just going to say that it has to be is, and you can hit today. So it has to be today. That's basically what that means. We're also going to add another filter where the status is not done. Anything but done. Now, because that was done, it disappeared. If I want to add new tasks, I can hit this new button and it will add a new task with the action date automatically set for today and the status automatically set to not started. Let's give this task a name and a due date, and let's give it a priority level, and we can hook it up to a project. And now that is basically just a quick way to add a task for the day. And then once you hit done, it disappears. I can hit Control Z to bring it right back and change the status back to not started if I want to as well. If I accidentally mark something done, and let's say I marked the wrong thing done. Next, I want to add today's notes. So let's go ahead and add that right below this call out by adding another call out, and we will select our bookmark and we'll just call it notes, and we'll call this one to do. I actually have an idea to make this a little bit more versatile here. We can rename the view to today's to do, and then I'm going to go ahead and add our notes here, drag it into notes, and select our data source of notes, hide that, and this is going to say recent. Essentially, we have today's to do and then recent notes here. And recent notes is going to be basically just notes that we've taken somewhat recently. I know that sounds pretty obvious, but we're going to add a created time property here, and I'm just going to basically name this note taken so that we can see when the note was initially taken at. Okay, so let's also add a last edited. I'm going to go last edited time, and last edited is what we'll name it. So anything that was taken today or that was edited today or yesterday, we want to show up here. So within the past 48 hours, let's say, we want it to show up in recent notes. So since this one is on the 29th, it will show up right now. If I change this filter to last edited is relative to today, past, let's just go past 2 days. So actually what this is going to do is just going to show us anything that was last edited in the past 2 days. Or maybe we make this last edited in the past day, and we make it note taken is relative to today, past 2 days. So if it was taken in the past 2 days or edited in the past day, it's going to show up in this part of the database here. So this is just going to give us a good idea of our recent notes. So if we remembered taking a note and we wanted to reference it quickly, we could find it here. All right, so with that, we've built the dashboard, and now we're going to go ahead and add buttons. These buttons are what I call quick capture buttons. They allow you to quickly add a new task or note. So to do this, we're just going to hit /callout, and I'm going to type in quick capture, and we'll bold that. For icons, we'll go ahead and go with the little capture there, and I'm going to hit / and type in button, and we'll create a new button. I'm going to name this add task. Again, I'm just going to change this to tasks. Sorry, I'm changing things like on the fly so much, but again, I just want to make sure it's perfect and everything's clean. So add task, we're going to go ahead and add an icon here with our yellow task check mark, and I'm going to add a step. And we want to add a page to, we're going to select our tasks database. And the task name should be new task. The status should be by default, not started. And then I want to add one more step, and we want to open page. And this is where you want to select side peek. And you also want to select new page added. This is going to select the page that you're just now adding when you're clicking this button. So let's hit done. And now, when I hit add task, it's going to pop open a side panel where I can quickly capture a new task. So in this case, I can just quickly add it to my to-do list for today, for instance, if I wanted to. And I can set the due date for sometime in the future. And then I can select my priority levels so that they fall into the proper hierarchy here. Speaking of the proper hierarchy, let's go ahead and sort this tasks database here. Click on priority, and priority should be ascending. That should set everything up right. Let's just test it out. Boom. Now the way that this works is it's not alphabetical. It's based on the order that these are dragged in. So if you have priority 1 in the middle, it's not going to alphabetically work or anything like that. You have to have them 1, 2, 3, and that is how it's going to know how to sort those. So we added that sort there. Now add task is done. We're going to go ahead and duplicate, and we're going to rename it to add note. And we'll go ahead and go with the bookmark. We'll call this new note, and we're going to change this actually to notes and edit another property. If you want to, you can add a tag. Let's just go ahead with the new page added, side peek, make sure it's on notes, new note, and that looks pretty good. So let's hit done and click add new note. And as you can see, it's going to allow me to change the name, and it's also going to allow me to enter some things here. All right, the buttons are complete. And now let's go ahead and build processing into this. I'm going to go ahead and just add a view for each of these that helps you process your notes and tasks. So let's go ahead and hit plus, and we're going to go with tasks, and we'll go ahead and do a new empty view. I'm going to rename this view to needs review, and we'll go with the check mark still. And for this particular use case, we're going to go with a table, and side peek is fine. All of this is fine. We're just not going to show the database title. Let's hit done. And now I want to see basically just things that need review in here, which would be things that don't have priority levels, things that are past due on the due date, or things that are past due on the action date. If something doesn't have a project, I also want it to show up here because I want everything to fall under a project, even if it's just called general or something like that. I want everything to be categorized where it should be, if that makes sense. So if you want to, you can tweak this so that it doesn't have to have a project. But for me, I'm going to make it so that you need a project, you need a priority, you need a due date, you need an action date, you need all of these things. You need a title as well. The next thing that we have to do here is we have to add some filters to see what needs review out of our tasks. Anything that doesn't have a project, a priority, or a due date, action date, task name, anything that doesn't have these things, I want to make sure that it doesn't slip under the rug. So let's go ahead and hit add filter, and we're going to add an advanced filter where the task contains new task. It's going to show up in here. So that means if I hit add task, it's going to show up because that's the name by default. And that means that I haven't given it a name yet. So once I give it a name, it disappears out of there. Okay, so that's just one quick example of how you can process things, right? The next thing that we want to make sure is that the action date isn't in the past. If the action date is in the past, that means that we've forgotten about this task. Let's go ahead and add a filter rule for that. Just hit add a filter rule, and it should say or, and we're going to select action date is before today. So anything with an action date that's before today is going to show up here. And then as soon as the action date is today or later, it shouldn't show up here. But the reason it's still showing up is because we have our task name here without a name. If you remember, we added that. So as you can see, when I give it a name, it disappeared. So now action date is before today is working. And we're also going to add action date is before, and we're also going to add that for due date. So let's just change this to due date is before today. So that means it's basically past due. It's either past due or it's past planned. The status should be not started or in progress. So we do have to add that. And I'm just going to go or. We're going to also add where status is not complete, but I'm not going to add that yet. First, we're just going to add that it needs a priority in a project. This is a simple one, so we're just going to go ahead and do or priority is empty, and then or projects is empty. You don't need to do this last one if you don't want projects to be mandatory. But for me, I want projects to be mandatory on all my tasks, even if I just name it like general project or something like that. But now that that's all set, I'm going to go ahead and add another filter. Just press this button separately where the status is not complete. So I don't want to see anything that's complete. Okay, now everything in here needs processing. Everything that I'm seeing right now needs processing. Any tasks that aren't in here, that means that they've already been processed properly. So walk the dog, let's go ahead and change that to today. And let's go ahead and change the due date to today as well, and give it a priority and give it a project of animal care. And oh, boom, it's gone. It's just like magic. As I add all the details for these tasks and all the up-to-date content for these tasks, they're going to slowly start disappearing, as you can see. So it's kind of like trying to reach inbox 0 when you are in your email and you're going through at the end of the day and you're just kind of checking things off. So that's how the needs review works. Now we're going to go ahead and build the needs review for notes. Let's just hit plus, and I'm going to go ahead and click notes. I'm going to rename this to needs review. And here I'm just going to go ahead and filter by some different filters. We're going to go ahead and delete these ones on the needs review tab. And I'm going to add a filter for the name first, like we did for today's tasks. So when I hit add note, it's going to say new note. So let's go ahead and copy that. So add filter, note. So if the note contains, we need this to be an advanced filter. If the note contains new note or it's empty, it's going to show up here. Okay, so none of these have that as the case, but if I hit new, then we're gonna have an empty one and it'll show up. Or if I hit add note, we're gonna have an empty one and it will show up. Tags, if you want to have them be mandatory, you can. I'm not going to, so I'm not gonna add a filter for tags. Projects, I am going to have mandatory, just as part of my review process for the note. So I'm gonna go to filter and we're gonna add another or projects is empty. And that's gonna bring all these notes into here. So if I add a project to them, or multiple projects even if you want to, then they'll start disappearing. If I add a project to them, or multiple projects even if you want to, then they'll start disappearing, cleaning, and processing. So boom, as you can see, that was just a quick example of how to process your tasks and notes using the needs review tab. And with that, building is complete for process. Now I'm just going to show you some examples of how you can utilize some different views. For tasks, let's go ahead and utilize the calendar view. I'm going to go to tasks and we'll create a new empty view. I'm going to call it calendar. And here we're just going to select our task icon and I'm going to go to the settings here, layout, calendar. We're going to base it on the action date and I want to see this month. And if I open something, I'll open it in SidePeek. Then I'm going to go back and we're going to edit the properties that we see here. So let's take a look at the priority. And you can also introduce the status or projects, due date, whatever you want. I'm just going to stick with priority and just keep it very simple. Actually, we need status as well. And let's go ahead and filter out anything that's done. Let's also go ahead and sort the priority levels properly. So as you can see, now our tasks are in here. I can click on them and I can change the status of them. And when they get completed, like so, they disappear from our checklist. You can also drag them between days if you want to, like so. And as you can see, this works dynamically with the needs review. So if something happens to be in the past, it's going to, boom, it's going to go over to needs review. So this calendar is in tune with the rest of this system. Let's go ahead and hide this task's title. There's one more view that I want to create for tasks, and that is all tasks. So let's go ahead and select tasks. This is just going to be everything. So where it says new view, we'll go ahead and do new empty view. I'm going to name it all tasks, and we will change the icon to this check mark, and we'll hit done. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to enable some grouping. So I'm going to group by status and we're going to see all of our tasks not started, in progress, and done. I'm going to hide the title there. So yeah, this is just a quick, easy way to see everything. And if I want to, I can hide anything that's done. But if I want to, I can also see everything in my system that's not started, even things that aren't processed yet. So if this is here, it might not show up necessarily on my calendar because it doesn't have an action date, but it will show up here in all tasks. So maybe you lose something and you can't find it and you're not looking in needs review and fixing it. Well, all tasks is a place to go where you can take care of that if you want to. Let's also create all notes. From here, if you want to, you can enable any sort of sorting that you want. So I'm just going to sort by last edited, descending. This way, as I add tasks, it's going to put the new tasks on the top. So that's utilizing views. Now, when it comes to nice aesthetics, we've kind of been working those in as we've gone along with these callouts. Some other tips that you can kind of take and use if you want to are, first of all, you can create equation on any single piece of text like this and hit done. And as you can see, it makes it look a little bit fancier if you wanted to. That is one way to go about personalizing the system, making it look a little bit more aesthetic. And another thing that you can do is mark as code after you mark as an equation, or you can just get rid of the equation. Let's see if I can get rid of that and just name it notes. And you can just go with the mark as code if you wanted to. Then you can bold it and change the color. I quite like the look of that because it looks a little bit more compact and it stands out a little bit nicer. So that is one way that you can change the look and feel just by marking something as code and changing the color, bolding it. You can even italicize it or underline it if you want to. The underline looks quite nice because it just underlines the entire code block. So I don't know. I think that this is something that's underutilized in terms of aesthetics. So definitely give this a shot. I'm going to go ahead and keep that for everything actually, because I really like the look of that.
Perfect.
Another thing that you can do is just match all the colors like I've done here with the yellows. And let's go ahead and get rid of our game plan for the most part here. We don't really need that anymore. I'm just going to drag the third-party tools to the bottom because we're going to add that in a moment. But overall, this is the second brain for the most part. I'm going to add projects next though. So stick around for a moment while I add a little bit more of an area for projects. So I could add projects over on this side, for instance, just by hitting create linked view. Could go to projects, and then we could hide this database title. And you can add as many views as you want for projects, but in this case, I'm just going to go ahead and go with the gallery layout, and then we're going to go with small, and I'm going to show page cover, and we'll select side peek. I think this is going to look really nice because we're going to have all of our projects just kind of running down the side here, and you can sort by how many tasks you have or the progress if you wanted to. Sort by whatever you want or add different properties even if you do want to. And let's go ahead and also add the progress properties so that we can see the progress of our projects. And then I recommend adding some nice cover photos. If you're going to go with an aesthetic of like this yellow colorway, then I would just go to Unsplash and type in yellow and then enter whatever it is that you want. So I'm just going to go with these balloons or balls or whatever these are. And as you can see, if we went with like all yellow in here, it would look really nice after a while and it would just look really aesthetically pleasing. I could even go ahead and change all my priority levels to like colors that just look a little bit better in this particular style. Then I can also add a cover photo, and let's just go with the yellow for the cover photo. And I think for this, let's go with white so that it looks good on the yellow. There we go. Or at least a little bit better. Maybe we go, see what the gray looks like. However you want to do it with this. Just some ideas that I'm throwing out there. But that is pretty much it, I think. I'm going to go ahead and delete these other projects that don't matter. And as you can see, this is pretty much the second brain. Let's go ahead and add a call out here. Just do a few little cleanup things before I go. Projects should go there. And we'll keep the styling consistent, of course. And we'll drag it in here. Give that a little bit of breathing room. And if you get too many projects and you don't like this over here, you can always drag it under these, and that can be helpful as well. So now let's go ahead and talk about the tools that are going to enhance the second brain for you. Tool number one is notionautomations.com. Notion Automations allows you to sync Notion with a ton of different platforms, mainly Google Calendar and Todoist. If I go down to the pricing here, you'll see that you can select how many automations you want to have and your refresh frequency. So this is a very useful tool for two-way syncing Google Calendar and Notion or Todoist and Notion back and forth. This saves a lot of time and it saves on capturing as well. It can be super helpful to not have to context switch and go back and forth between Google Calendar and Notion. It's nice to be able to just change something on one end and then see that change reflected on the other. I'm excited to see the other automations that these guys release. All right, the next tool that we're going to take a look at is Chartbrick. Chartbrick allows you to add embeddable charts from Notion or Airtable to your workspaces. So here's a quick example of how they use this for expenses in their expense database. And I think it's just pretty neat. So that's why I had to include this. I have another full video on it if you want to check that video out. It's basically just another way to look at your data inside of Notion. Tool number 3 is Save to Notion. This is another quick capture tool that's just going to save you a lot of time when it comes to capturing different items when you're just browsing the internet. As you can see here on their homepage, it just says Save the Web to Notion, and you can download the Chrome extension or Firefox extension. It's pretty easy to use and get started with. You just have to choose a database that you want to pull articles into, and it will literally turn an article like this into a Notion page and it'll pull everything over there for you. Where this becomes really powerful is when you are using Notion AI and you're automatically summarizing those articles or trying to gain key insights from those articles inside of Notion. So if you have the Notion AI version, which I've talked about in previous videos, I think that this could be beneficial as well. And finally, we're going to move on to tool number 4, which is Zapier or Make.com. Both of these tools are really good for automating things that Notion automations can't automate. So Google Calendar is something that I've tried to do in Zapier and Make, and I just had a lot better luck in Notion automations, even though it was a paid feature. So if you want to, you can pay for Zapier or Make or use one of their free plans to try to automate some things in Notion as well. One of the things that I did is I hired a JavaScript developer to create a pull that every day pulls from the Aura Ring API and captures my sleep data using this sleep tracking ring. So basically this has these little sensors on it. Every day it sends my sleep data to the cloud and my activity data to the cloud, and then that gets automatically ported over to my Notion workspace through an API using some basic JavaScript. He's able to kind of format that information and put it into my workspace every day automatically. So you can do some pretty crazy things with Zapier and Make, and it can really make your productive brain all that stronger.